Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hotels are meant to be temporary escapes, places where we rest. But sometimes, when the lights go out, the room remembers everyone who ever stayed. Welcome to 19 terrifying hotel horror stories that will make you think twice before checking in. Story 1. The room with no reflection. I stayed at a remote hotel during a solo road trip. Everything felt fanatical. I noticed the bathroom mirror didn't reflect the bed behind me, just blank space. I waved, moved around, even held up my phone behind me to confirm. The final night, I left the door open while brushing my teeth. That's when I saw a woman sitting on the bed in the mirror only. Smiling. Watching. Story 2. Room 607. I was placed in room 607. The bellboy looked visibly uncomfortable. "You'll be fine," he said, then walked off fast. That night, the lights flickered constantly, and there was this scraping noise from inside the closet. I tried opening it, it was jammed. I called the front desk. They sent no one. The next morning I checked out early. The receptionist glanced at my keycard and said, "We stopped assigning room 607 after what happened last year." Story 3. Housekeeping never came. I stayed 3 nights. Every day, I left the "please clean" sign on my door, yet every evening, the room remained untouched. On the last night, frustrated, I went to complain. The front desk woman looked puzzled. "Ma'am, our records say your room's been cleaned daily and signed by the same maid." She turned the screen to me. The name of the maid. It was my own name. Story 4. The man under the bed. A woman traveling alone decided to double-check her room before settling in. All seemed normal, but a strange smell lingered. She called the front desk. They sent security. One of the guards knelt and looked under the bed, then jumped back instantly. A man was lying there, grinning. He whispered, "She almost saw me last night too." Story 5. The phone that never rang. Every night at 2:13 a.m., the hotel phone rang. Just static. When I told the manager, he looked pale. That line was disconnected years ago, ever since the guest in that room. Well, he didn't leave willingly. On my last night, I unplugged the phone. It still rang. Story 6. Mirror smile. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed something wrong with my reflection. My mouth had stopped brushing, but the reflection continued. Brushing, smiling. I froze. The reflection looked at me, winked, and then stepped out of frame. I never saw it return. Story 7. The wrong wake-up call. At 5 a.m., my phone rang. A voice, distorted and heavy, said, "Wake up. He's in your room." I shot up, looked around. Nothing. The door was locked. Curtains closed. But when I checked my phone log, there was no incoming call recorded. Story 8. Children on the 6th floor. The 6th floor had no rooms, just storage. But every night, guests reported hearing children running, giggling, tapping on their doors. When staff checked, there was nothing. One maid quit after claiming she saw small handprints on the inside of every 6th floor window. On the outside. Story 9. Elevator game. Late one night, I pressed the lobby button. The elevator went up instead, then stopped at floor 9, which didn't exist. The doors opened to darkness. A shadow moved. I hit close repeatedly. The doors shut. The next morning, the front desk told me that elevator was decommissioned for a fatal incident. Story 10. The cold spot. Room was warm, except one freezing cold corner. No matter what I did, that one spot stayed icy. I placed a glass of water there. It froze overnight. When I told the manager, he sighed and said, "That's where they found the body in '98. No one stays long after they feel it." Story 11. Guess that wasn't there. I kept hearing thumps from the room above. Furniture dragging. Loud pacing. I called to complain, but the front desk replied calmly, "There's no one checked into that floor tonight. We're under renovation." Story 12. Room service from the dead. I ordered food at midnight. Minutes later, a pale man delivered it, said nothing, and left. I enjoyed the meal, but when I went to return the tray, the staff said they had no one matching that description and no room service was sent to me. Story 13. The screaming hallway. Guests often complained about screams in the hallway at 3:33 a.m. Always at the same time. Always the same sound. A woman wailing, begging, then silence. Hotel security installed cameras. The footage shows nothing, except doors unlocking themselves. Story 14. TV static. The TV turned on by itself. Static. Then words formed. "Look behind you." I laughed, thinking it was a prank, until I saw the remote was across the room. Story 15. The permanent guest. Every week, room 411 is booked by a man who never checks in, never checks out. But the front desk always finds the bed slept in the shower damp, and a fresh cigarette burning in the ashtray. They tried removing it from the system once. That night, a fire alarm went off. Only one room had smoke room, 411, but no one was there. No one ever is. Hotels are temporary, but some guests never leave. Sleep well if you can. And remember, always check under the bed. Story 16. The lady in red during a solo vacation in Turkey. I booked a week at an old Ottoman mansion turned boutique hotel. The place was stunning stone arches, antique rugs, and candlelit hallways. On my second night, unable to sleep, I walked out onto the balcony just after midnight. That's when I saw her, a woman in a flowing red dress, dancing alone in the garden. Her feet moved softly over the grass, bare and delicate. She spun in slow, elegant circles under the moonlight. I watched, entranced, thinking she must be part of some historical performance. The hotel was famous for celebrating its cultural past, after all. The next morning I asked the front desk about the dancer. Their smiles faded immediately. The manager leaned in and said quietly, "Please don't speak about her. You might bring her inside." I laughed it off, but that night, she returned, this time, closer. She danced just beyond the edge of the courtyard, her motions more rigid, more desperate. Her neck arched back to far as she spun, her arms jerking unnaturally. Her dress, no longer flooded, clung to her skin as if soaking wet. Then she stopped, and turned toward me. I couldn't see her eyes, just shadows. Suddenly, a knock at my door. 3 soft taps. I held my breath. When I opened it, no one was there. But there, on the doormat, was a single red ribbon, still warm, as if it had just been untied. Story 17. The Do Not Disturb room in 2019. I worked for a luxury hotel chain in London. We had one rule: never enter room 428 unless the manager was present. It had been permanently blocked out from bookings. Yet every few months, a guest would somehow be assigned to it by the system without explanation. Once, during a chaotic check-in day, the computer auto-assigned a newlywed couple to room 428. No one noticed until they came down complaining that their luggage had been moved and that someone had been in the room before them. The groom showed us a photo from his phone, a single antique rocking chair in the corner, gently rocking on its own. But we had emptied that room years ago. When I went up to investigate, the door was ajar. Inside, the rocking chair had returned. Worse, the words "Do Not Disturb" were carved into the back wall over and over, dozens of times, in different handwriting. We moved the couple and locked the room again. But late that night, a call came from 428, static, then a voice, barely a whisper. They shouldn't have touched the chair. Story 18. Story 18. The wake-up call. A traveling salesman named Marcus booked a small roadside motel after a long, exhausting drive. At the front desk, the old woman offered him a key and asked kindly, "Would you like a wake-up call?" He declined, saying he'd wake naturally. At 4:44 a.m., the phone rang. Bleary-eyed, he answered. A raspy voice whispered, "Wake up, he's here." Marcus jolted upright and looked around. No one. Then came knocking. Slow, methodical. 4 knocks. He checked the doors, but when he stepped back, the knocking resumed, louder now. He opened the door, and the hallway was empty. Confused and disturbed, he looked at the phone again. The screen read, "Call from room 12." But Marcus was in room 12. The next morning, when he mentioned it to the clerk, she blinked in confusion. "That's strange. We don't even have phones connected in that wing." And room 12 was shut down in 1986. Man died in there. Someone said he made one last call, right before they found him. Marcus left without breakfast, and to this day, he never stays at motels, ever. Story 19. Suite 313. My cousin Priya, a travel blogger, stayed at a remote hotel in the Austrian Alps. It was off-season, nearly empty. The receptionist looked uneasy when assigning her suite 313, but didn't say anything. That night, around 3:13 a.m., Priya woke up to soft footsteps coming from above her ceiling, except she was on the top floor. Then came the whispering. Low, overlapping voices. The chandelier swayed gently above her. She tried to record it on her phone, but the moment she hit record, silence. The next morning, she demanded answers. The manager quietly moved her to another room and finally admitted. Years ago, a woman jumped from that room after her husband betrayed her. Every March 13th, we hear her pacing waiting. That's today. March 13th, Priya never stayed in a top floor room again. Love scary stories like these? Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join for new horror every week.